Up next, we have award-winning farmer. She's also an entrepreneur, an author, a podcaster, a speaker. Let's welcome Mbali Nwako.
Thank you for having me. So my name is Mbali Nwako. I'm a farmer, and I didn't think I'll be in the agri-industry, if you asked me, maybe 20 years ago. But this is what I do. It's my 9 to 5, and I am a farmer based in Johannesburg that's farming peppers. It wasn't my first crop. However, I'll tell you a little bit of why I'm now producing peppers for established wholesalers, retailers, as well as fruit processing companies across South Africa. I'm a first-generation farmer, and what that means is that it's my first time, or it's the first time in my immediate family of having someone who's farming. Typically in the agri-industry, you have second, third, and fourth-generation farmers where family farms have been passed on from generation to generation. However, I'm the first in my family to be able to break this barrier and be a commercial farmer. So I've been farming for 6 years now, but it's an industry that I never thought I'd be in. You know, I studied BCom industrial psychology, completed a year of my MBA and then dropped out because, I had a business then which was very, very demanding prior to me entering the agri space. And my business is called Green Terrace. I started farming in 2016 on leased land on 14 hectares. However, 8 hectares of that land was fully available for production. And so I started on 2 hectares and gradually grew, But a lot of people ask me, how did you get into it? And so I was at an entrepreneurs event, and the person sitting next to me was talking to me about how he has left his engineering career and started farming. And I found it so fascinating how someone could just leave like a corporate job. He was, doing very well and then went into farming. And how peculiar was that? Because you never really get to meet someone who's doing something like that each and every day. And at that time, I was also just frustrated in my business that I'd been running with a co-partner for about 3 years. And I was just so engrossed in his story, and I got to learn about, what he's doing, the fact that you can just grow cabbage, sell it to a retailer, and make your money. That was like out of this world for me. And so after speaking to this gentleman, I started doing my research around the industry, the opportunities, what a person like myself, female, young, could obviously take advantage of in the agri-industry. And about a month later, I'd obviously established Green Terrace, I'd registered the business, and I started looking for land. Fortunately, I found land to rent, which was a 14-hectare farm based in Boksburg, and I started with spinach, the most simplest crop, and I thought, if I fail, I think I could, resuscitate this crop, and I could obviously move forward and expand to other crops. And so I started with spinach and gradually grew to baby marrows, peppers, as well as green beans. And those are the 4 crops that I was producing. I started to access markets, informal and informal. I had informal traders that I started selling to, from employing people from about a staff of 2 to now employing about 30 people on the farm. And so this was my journey. Not having studied agriculture, I had to learn and do all the research that I possibly can, whether it's Google, YouTube, attending farmer events where I could learn certain milestones from farmers. And we were all the same, whether I was starting out or whether I was speaking to someone who's been in farming for 20 years or 30 years. The challenges that we faced were similar, just at different levels. And this is how I acquired my agri knowledge and how I equipped myself as a farmer. But I think what is great is that I was learning every single day, Each day was completely different, and you lose money, you make money, you get frustrated from, the team that you're working with. But also for a person who's a perfectionist like myself, I always wanted to control things, but unfortunately, farming, you're at the mercy of Mother Nature, climate. And so this is what it taught me earlier on in terms of you cannot control everything. Not everything is in your power, but you have to let things be and let things unfold by themselves. So these are the early milestones and journeys that I picked up back in 2016 to 2018 as I was farming. So, what I always say to some people is that when you're going about your journey, being authentic as you are and really striving towards achieving success, but not only for yourself, but the people you employ, you'll meet people who will be attracted to that positivity, who would be attracted to that authenticity as well as attracted to that level of success. And so from the period of 2016 to 2019, I'd learned a great deal. And I thought, this is a time now where I need to grow, you know, not lease anymore, but so many opportunities started coming and I couldn't really develop and grow my business on a leased farm. And so I went on a search and I bought a property in 2019. It's a 2-hectare farm, so very small to what I was producing in terms of the land size or the hectareage. And I had a vision of really what I wanted, you know, and that vision was basically made out of all the mistakes, all the challenges that I had experienced and endured in the old farm. So that vision was to build a hydroponic farm, not use soil, build a farm that is completely undercover, build a farm that is high-tech from a technology systems perspective, irrigation perspective, that will help me save money on the amount of money that I spent on the previous farm, buying fits and compression fittings, valves, nuts, and clamps, just to, you know, maintain the water level. And I thought, I'm young, let me tap into the technology that's been offered in agri, and certain challenges that I experienced in the old farm would definitely be erased in this brand new farm. And also, I wanted to be top of mind for something. You know, I deal with a lot of decision makers in my industry, retailers, wholesalers, food processors that pretty much make decisions on what goes onto our retail shelves. And I had to listen to everything that they said, and this is how I decided to niche down on a specific crop. To say, okay, I think peppers is it. I can grow peppers intensively in a smaller piece of land, still employ people, but not as much as I was then, but make technology useful for my business, you know, and start creating other careers as a subset of what I'm doing in agri. And so this is just what I built. And unfortunately, the timing was just not perfect, and we all don't know this. I bought a property in 2019. When I started building, 2 days later, Ramaphosa said lockdown. And so in farming, you're at the mercy of seasons, right? So if you miss a specific planting date or a planting time, you have to wait for the following year. And what does that translate to in business? Money is lost. So for the period of 2020 and 2021, I was building this farm. A lot of my greenhouse materials was coming from abroad. You know, a lot of the stuff was also delayed. But you have to find ways as an entrepreneur to really mitigate against those risks. Find loopholes across the challenges that you face. But today, we've successfully built about 1.3 hectares of a farm greenhouse. So everything that we produce is completely covered, and reducing my crop disruptions around pests and diseases. And these are the opportunities that come with greenhouse farming. I decided, let me produce hydroponically and see how successful can I be? Because today we talk about farmers having to be sustainable, having to outlive their farms, having to not only farm for themselves, but for the future generation, but also thinking about the environment and people at the same time. So hydroponic farming seemed like the best route for me. And this is what I've built, and I'm proud to say that I'm the owner of my own farm. You know, I bought a land, I built it up from bottom up, and I was part of that entire process, and there's so much that goes into it. And again, every time I reach a certain milestone in my career, I look at where was I 5 years ago? Did I think I'd be in this space? No, but look at the things that unfold once you start investing in yourself, and you'll get people that will just obviously want to help you in achieving those dreams. So today, Greenhouse is a fully fledged producing pepper farm, still supplying to its retailers, and currently employing 18 people, 8 on a full-time basis and 12 on a contractual basis as well. And this is where I want people to see the opportunity. You know, people look at me and say, you're a first-generation farmer, but firstly, they have to get through the thought of seeing me as a farmer, you know, because people don't believe that I am. But I think what's great about farming is that farmers have been at the forefront of technology since the longest of times. If a farmer is using a tractor, someone invented a tractor before. many, many years ago. And so I think this is what people miss about agriculture and technology. It's always been there. And I'm just simply taking advantage as a young person in this industry of how I can marry my business with technology. The sensors that you see there detect the humidity, the temperature, and my soil temperature on the ground or in the planting bags. And it's able to give me information through live feeds to say, you know, today is a cloudy day, maybe you need to open up your tunnels so that your peppers could produce more effectively. You know, I can get information around the yields that I'm harvesting per single tunnel. And if I'm receiving a drop in a certain tunnel in terms of yield, I'm able to go back to that specific tunnel and rectify whatever problem that exists there. And this is what you talk about smart farming. Farming driven purely by insights. And this is just how I farm. And I wouldn't have got to this position that I am today without having learned the journey and made all those mistakes. I still am now making mistakes, but I wouldn't have got to the position where I am today without having experienced, you know, the growing pains and the small milestones in that previous farm. And so this is the opportunity that agriculture brings in terms of, yes, it is farming, but not everything is centered around production. You know, farming requires scientists, requires tech people, it requires engineers, you know, it requires biochemists to really feed the nation, you know, produce food, combat food and food security, etc. And so people always ask me, why did you start this? I didn't know why I started, but now I know why. I think it's just divine intervention, but more so, my farm to me is a business, and I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Next year will be 10 years as a fully fledged entrepreneur, 7 years in agriculture, and I'm just enjoying the journey, you know, and I think what keeps me going each and every single day is that I've got a team that relies on me to make strategic decisions for the longevity of the business, because if the business is sustainable, their careers are also sustainable as well. Yes, farming contributes heavily in the economy, not only from a food security perspective, but also creates many other jobs and is a subset of many other sectors that we see thriving and flourishing today. And so what I'm also just trying to do, I think, indirectly, is just to show and educate people that farming does not have to be an old age career where it's someone sitting in the rural area, you know, who's just got only 1 hectare and is not making a success, or someone who's in the rural areas managing a big farm, but maybe is male and is at the age of 65 or retirement age. But farming is an opportunity or an industry where young people can take advantage of, not only farm, but also help farmers and come up with innovative ways to help farmers become a success at the end of the day. And so this is my story, and I think I'd like to encourage you to seek beyond what is in your immediate environment, but go out and learn more and explore more. Because if someone had to ask me, would I be a farmer today, back 10 years ago, I would have said no. But there's power in investing in yourself, in researching about an unknown industry, but also thriving and really doing something that you love authentically, you know. And I think that's the attitude that I'd like everybody to walk with, in terms of, you know, go for what you want, but also don't be afraid to make those failures and a mistake. I think in making those failures and mistakes, how you get through it is by not comparing yourself to other people. Stay in your lane, because there's a reason and a purpose and why you are where you are. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share my story.